So that's what I would recommend for children in reception, year 1 and year 2. Okay, so we've established that schools are closed and you have responsibility for educating your children. We've established that we can't go outside because of the lockdown. And our children might be a little bit irritated about that, but there's not much we can do about it. And we've also established that there are many negatives, but there are also many positives. So in this video, we're going to go a bit deeper into finding out exactly how we can make this lockdown schooling worth our while. Okay? The first thing you need to do is recognise that home is not school and school is not home, although education happens in both places, whether it's bad education or good education. So try to separate those things. The way a teacher teaches in school is very different from the way that a parent will teach their child at home, and that's okay. You don't have to replicate school. Establish boundaries with your children and your family. Let them know what's expected of them, what you will accept and what you will not accept. Work out your purpose for education. What is your reason for wanting your children to be educated? How could you educate them differently now that they're at home than you would have done if they were at school? Choose what to teach. The timing is different now, so it's entirely up to you. What I might teach my children will be different from what you might teach your children and what they might teach their children. Set a household schedule or some kind of timetable that will work for your family, whether it's to do with chores or cooking times or things like that. It's good to set yourself with some type of schedule. Get organised and tidy up your house. Keep your house tidy. Sort out your food cupboard, like maybe you want to restock and check what you have, what you don't have. Because a clear house means you have a clear mind. Your house won't be as tidy as it would normally be if your children were at school all the time. You might find that you're washing up the dishes a lot more. You might find that the washing machine's on a lot more. Obviously, your children may be going through lots more clothes and not wearing school uniform as much as they used to. You might find that your bills go up a little bit, your gas bills, your electric bills. And, so give yourself a break with regards to tidying up. Maybe you might tidy up your house when children go to bed or get your children involved in doing it with you. But you will find that things are different from how it was before if you're not used to home educating. Okay, so now for the fun stuff. Look up the I can statements or the objectives for your child's year group. You can look on your school website or look online and there'll be many things in there telling you what a child in year 1, for example, should know, or what a child in year 2, for example, should know. And go through that and see if there's things in there that your child knows, you can move on if they do, or if there's things in there that your child does not know. I have a few statements on my website, so you can go to www.1.4teacher.co.uk and there's a list of objectives for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. Remember, you've got 12 weeks, that's my kettle, sorry. Remember, you've got 12 weeks off school starting from Monday the 20th of April. So 12 weeks where they would have been at school that you can make a difference in your child's life. But I'm now going to show you some examples and recommendations of resources and different things you can use with your children who are in primary school. If your school is using letters and sounds, then Scholfield and Simms works really well. If you go to the back of the book, it will tell you which books and which phase of phonics you need to work through. So you start off with phase 1, that goes over some of the sounds I spoke to you about before. Then you move on to phase 2. That's a really important phase. Some of these Jolly Phonic books work from phase 2 as well. After phase 2 is phase 3, then you have phase 4, phase 5 and phase 6. In reception, the child will normally be working from phase 2, maybe phase 1 as well, but phase 2 and phase 3 and possibly phase 4 as well. Okay, so these books, as you open the book, it will go through some of the sounds that they learned in the previous booklet, which was a phase 2 booklet. And the sounds that they would have covered would have been these sounds over here. You don't say the letter name, so you wouldn't say SATP. You say the sounds because that way it helps your child to be able to read. So this sound over here, you'd say S, then you'd say A, T, P, I, N, M, D, G, O, K, K, E, A. B, F, You wouldn't say H, you wouldn't say M, you don't say N, and you don't say P. Okay, so you must make sure that you say the sound. This one over here is as if you were blowing out a candle. So it's like P, And what I like about the Jolly Phonics books is that it gives you the action for those sounds as well. Now I haven't got all the numbers here because some of my students are using them, but I've got number 3. So number 3, as you can see, is still part of phase 2. But what it does with the Jolly Phonics books is that it also shows you the action that you need to do. So the G action will be a G action like that. You've got the O, is as if you're turning off a switch. Oh, 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 oh. So it's oh, 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 oh. And there's so many more actions in these books. So once your child has reached phase 2, and put this aside. In phase 2, your child will probably bring home some books that are pink coloured. So they'll be pink colour books. As you can see, the same letters come up in the focus. And these books will have individual sounds that they need to learn how to blend to put them together to read words. So for example, dig, dig, dig. Maybe your child will recognise that these two words look the same. So if they did phase 1 and they learned about rhyme, they might be able to work out that these two are the same. So rather than sounding out the word dig again, they might just say dig. So they'll say dig, because the d looks slightly different. Then you've got dig, 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 dig. Tim, dug, up, up. A is a key word. Bus. Tim dug up a bus. And they can read through the book. Now, it'll probably take a bit longer for them at the beginning to understand how to decode all those letters, but you just have to be really patient with them. Another thing I like about these books by Songbirds, these are written by Julia Donaldson, the same author that wrote Gruffalo and Gruffalo's Child. But what I like about these books as well, it gives you an opportunity to talk with your child. So you work on speaking and listening skills over here. So it's giving you questions and things that you can do with your child. Then you read the story and it tells you when to stop and what to do when you get to that page. And again, at the back of the book, it will tell you some more things that you can do to check your child's understanding, check their comprehension, check their phonics, the letter and pattern sounds that they made, and it gives you an example of some phonetic words that they should be able to sound out, and also the high frequency tricky words. Now these words are common, but children may find them hard to read at this stage over here, but they're like words that might not necessarily need to be blended. Okay, so that's the first stage for phase 2. Once your child gets onto phase 3, like this booklet showed you, they'll be reading red band books, which are quite similar, but the difference with red band books is that it introduces them to something called digraphs, like letters together that make one sound. So D and D, you just say D. You wouldn't say O, D, D. You just say O, D. Another example could be, there's not many in this booklet. Same for eggs, 2 sounds together, eggs, eggs. Okay, but it'll go on a bit further. So with like fish and chips, you've got another digraph here, the S and the H. So your child should not sound out each of them. They need to recognise that this is a digraph. Fish, fish, or ch-ips, chips. They wouldn't say k-h-ips. They wouldn't be able to read the word. And they learn about those skills in these books over here, in the phase 3 booklets. You see? Together, ooh, makes a sound, ooh, for lolly. S makes a sound for snake. F makes a sound for fish. Even though you don't write it like that, it makes a sound. And they'll keep getting introduced to more digraphs and more letters and more high frequency words. Okay, so these books work really well. Phase 3 work really well with red band books. And then as the child moves on, they go on to phase 4. Phase 4 would be yellow. So if your child's reading yellow band books, that means they're most likely to be on phase 4. These type of books. Now they're the same sort of thing, but a little bit longer. And there'll be a lot more bigger words in there, like that word there, mammoth. So it looks quite big, but if they're able to break up the letters, then they'll be able to read it. Off, mammoth. Yeah, and it just goes up like that. Yeah, so these sort of books, if your child is reading yellow band books, they're most likely on phase 4. And that's what they'll be doing in reception. So there's also some of these Oxford Reading Tree books. I've got some of the classical ones, like these are the old school ones. I got these off eBay, but there's not many available anymore. But I really like these books as well. The only thing is that these ones are not as decodable as the Songbird books, because these ones, there's a lot more high frequency words in there. And it's really about the understanding of the story. But they are still very, very good. So that's what the child would do. Your child would do if they're in reception. At home, you can also use lots of flashcards with them. You can go through sounds on the flashcard and see if they can identify what the word says underneath. There's many things you can do. So you might start by saying, what's this picture of? It's a sun. And then you can sound them out. Sun has 3 sounds. S-a-n, sun. Or if they're able to read the sound, they can read the sound. S, for sun. Were you right? Yay! So there's different things you can do with these phonics cards as well, but these I really recommend these booklets as well. As you can see, they're well used. So that's what I would recommend for children in reception. I'd also recommend the Phonics CGP books. At the bottom of each book, it tells you exactly which sounds are covered in the booklet. So if you can't get hold of Scholfield and Simms, I would say get these. Letters and Sounds is a really good website, and so is Phonics Play, and also Communication for All. And if you wanted to try a completely different method, I would definitely recommend the Montessori curriculum. There's a really good video called the Montessori Language Program, which you can find on YouTube. If you click below, there'll be a link there for you to follow through to. You could also find some really good ideas on Pinterest. Children in Year 1 would work through Phase 4 and Phase 5. Phase 5, Book 3 will probably come after the phonics screening test at this term really, and it deals with alternative sounds and different ways of spelling the sound. For example, these sounds over here, they both say j. That says j and this says j. But as you can see, this one is spelled with a D, G and an E. Okay, but the child in Year 1, they'll be working on blue band books to start with. They might start on yellow and then move on to blue. This correlates with children on phase 5. So as you can see, it's got the digraphs in here. Moan, moan, moan. These flashcards, which are also good for them to use, you would have different sounds in there. So this sound comes up in phase 3, and in phase 5, there's another way of saying the sound. Okay. Also, children in phase 5, they would also move on from blue. They would then go on to green band books. Green band, which deal with the alternative spellings of sounds, particularly G and J. Can't think of any more right now, but there's different sounds they use. And then they also would read orange band books as well. Right, so Year 2 children, when they get to Year 2, they probably won't need the flashcards anymore, but they would still need to work on phonics. So the Scholfield and Simms Book 1 and the Scholfield and Simms Book 2, they'll work through those systematically. They've got high frequency words to learn. They won't really learn any new sounds. It will just be putting those sounds together in words, but looking at the long sound that the vowels make and the short sounds that they make, and looking at like the phonics changes, like it looks at spellings a bit more in the grammar. So they look at plural, S and ES, they look at add an ing. Same sort of things where they're introduced to prefixes, some suffixes. Yeah. They will also be working through end of year tests, getting ready for their SATs. So the CGP brand are really good. This is quite a nice one to start off with because it's 10-minute reading tests, so it won't take as long. So the child will read the comprehension test, it tells you how long they've got, and then they'll move on to answering the questions. And they can work through those. At the end of these books as well, it has a progress chart as well, so you can record their scores, and it tells you how well they're doing. And there's a range of these type of books that I think are quite good. Another one, the question styles are very similar to what it would look like in some of the SATs papers. Yeah, there's a range there. So you still got reading schemes for children in Year 2. So reading would probably start from turquoise, because normally at the end of Year 1, they would finish on orange. But they might, every child is different. Every child works at their own pace. But here's an example of some turquoise band books. This one's a non-fiction book. I quite like these Bug Club books as well. So if you find them on Amazon, because it gives you interesting things to look at. So interesting words in the book. There's different skills that they want you to look for. There's tips that they've got in here as well. And then at the back of the book, there'll be fact files and different things for you to do as well. So I quite like the Bug Club books. So I've got a range here. Again, another turquoise band. So after turquoise, they'd move on to purple. So you've got the non-fiction purple books. Oxford Reading Tree have a really good range of books as well. Again, this is the old style books. They're quite hard to find now, but I got these off eBay. Stage 8 purple bands books. And the same for these. After purple, they move on to gold, but I don't have any gold ones. And then they'd move on to white. Here's an example of some white band books. Rigby Star, these ones I buy. Again, they're quite good. I always go for books that give you a bit of information to go through with the children at the start of the story, and they should have some more at the end as well. And then after that, they move on to Lime. Now, Lime is a bridge gap between year 2 and year 3. So some children might not be ready for Lime band books even at the end of year 2. They might be ready for them when they're in year 3. But again, here's a few examples of Lime band books by Bug Club and Rigby Star. This one has a teacher version as well. And then once they've been reading books and you've been doing oral questions with them, you might want to move on to workbooks if this is what you're into. So some of these workbooks over here by Scholfield and Simms, you might want to get the teacher guide because the teacher guide has the answers in them. I quite like having the answers. It makes my job a whole lot easier. So it's got the answers in here as well. And it helps you as a teacher to work out the question types that you need to work on with the child. It gives you a rough idea of the skills that are covered in each book. So these are the children workbooks, Comprehension 1 and Comprehension 2. So an example starts off with a book like this, Big Red Boots. Your child will read the text, sorry about the lines, and then they'd answer the questions. And it gives you a mark at the end as well. So you'll know from the teacher guide that if your child got some of these wrong, I think this book will tell you. Let's have a look. Big Boots, 24. So for this one, it gives you the introduction to the book. It gives you the answers, but then you'd have to go to the guide on the other page and it tells you what is covered in the book. So obviously with Big Red Boots, it's a book about the outdoors and about happiness. So it tells you what themes are covered. It's also got the cross-curricular content chart. So Big Boots, there's a lot of geography covered in that comprehension and a bit of drama. I believe it should tell you the comprehension skill as well. Yes, it does. So this one tells you the genre over here. So the genre is marked for the national curriculum. So Big Red Boots is a poem. And then you've also got the skill focus as well. So for Big Red Boots, it covers these things over here. So it covers recognizing simple reoccurring literary language in stories and poetry, discussing and clarifying the meaning of words, and so and so. So you get a rough idea of what your child needs to work on more. So I would recommend the teacher guide as well if you're going for the Scholfield and Simms comprehension books. And the same for CGP, the same type of thing. So you have your comprehension questions, a little bit easier. CGP is easier than Scholfield and Simms. You can start off with these books, you know, it'll be quicker for them. But as you go through the book, it does gradually get harder. As you can see, the text gets a bit more detailed and the questions get a bit longer. Yeah, so these ones are quite good as well. And then you would need the teacher guide to help you with the answers. And it also has a key for the focal. No, I don't know if it does actually. Yeah, this one is not as in-depth in terms of telling you the skill focus. But it does give you some information about the question types and extra things that you can do with your child.